If you're a Cleveland Browns fan looking for a break from the emotional roller coaster that is the price we pay from loving then hating our Browns, then a big welcome to Cleveland Browns Anonymous, a group therapy podcast to help you survive the season. So let's start our meeting.
Hi, everybody. This is Mike Riley. We've had a little bit of a break, but we're catching up with the Browns wrap-up for the 23 season. With me is my partner, Brooke Riley. Brooke, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
All right, so let's do a post-mortem on the Browns season. Let's start with you. General thoughts.
Well, I think they improved from last year. I'd be surprised if Stefanski doesn't win Coach of the Year. I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with Flacco. I'm glad Schwartz isn't leaving as defensive coordinator.
Is that for sure?
Well, I mean, the rumors are that he hasn't gotten one request to interview. So, and there's only a couple jobs left open. So, I mean, I'd be shocked if he leaves. I was a little surprised that a lot of the offensive staff left, but that might be something, to do with maybe tweaking the offense to be more of a Deshaun Watson offense, which kind of scares me because I don't know what to expect of that guy anymore.
Well, he was a top five quarterback, before all the shit happened. So I think the Browns are seeing that. I think a lot of the Stump Mitchell, Alex Van Pelt exits, the tight end coaches. I think Browns front office got a real taste of what changes in key coaching can do, especially, when they saw the impact that Jim Schwartz is. The only concern I have, I hope Schwartz stays. And the irony of it is with Schwartz, let me stay on him, is that he kind of dropped an egg against, in the playoff game. That defense was far from dominant, and that may have hurt his chances as a head coach, where teams are looking for maybe young, bright assistants in the Stefanski mold, as and who's the Texans coach, DeMeco Ryan.
Yeah.
They're looking at him hiring another DeMeco Ryan as opposed to hiring a retread like Jim Schwartz, who, maybe the word on the street is the guy reached his. As defensive coordinator, he's right up there with Bill Callahan, line coach, but head coach, question mark. So, I'm hoping Schwartz stays. Final thought on Jim Schwartz. Look at the difference with that Browns defense with Schwartz as opposed to Joe Woods. Just unbelievable. I think there's going to be some changes. It'll be interesting to see the impact. A second year with Jim Schwartz working with Andrew Berry and Stefanski, and the brain trust, the scouts, and who they signed free agent. Because they really, what that Texan game exposed was, if they're not developing a pass rush on that front four and they're playing man-to-man, they're going to get killed. They're going to get lit up. So it'll be interesting to see I don't think they're going to re-sign Zadarius Smith. He was a no-show in that Texans game. But, additional thoughts on coaches. I just pray to God Bill Callahan sticks around. So your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it'd be a real loss if Bill Callahan left. I am curious to see how the new offensive coordinator is going to be, if he's actually going to be an offensive coordinator, actually calling the plays.
I don't think he's going to be calling the plays, Brooke. I think what they're looking for is Dorsey bringing what he brought to Cam Newton, which got them to the Super Bowl. I think they're trying to see if Dorsey can do the same magic with Deshaun Watson he did with Cam Newton. Your thoughts?
I don't know. I don't think you hire someone like Ken Dorsey and not have him call the plays. Hey, I could be wrong. Maybe there was an agreed upon thing with Stefanski and the coaching staff, where if they didn't meet certain expectations, that he needed to hire someone to actually call the plays.
Right.
But I think Ken Dorsey is, I mean, he's not a nobody. He's not, a genius, but I don't think he would have agreed to come here to not be able to call plays.
Right. Okay.
But we'll see.
Yeah. I think Flacco, I would love to see the Browns sign him as a backup. I think his interceptions were overblown. When you think about half his interceptions were either guys running the wrong routes, Tillman clanging off his hands, running the wrong route, not being where he's supposed to be, and a lot of garbage time right before halftime heaves by Flacco to see if they can get a Hail Mary. But that Texans game,
honestly, my gut is, I have this gut feeling that Watson is washed up. I really think he's done. I mean, they're not going to cut him, obviously. He's the starter, but I just do not see how you go back. He was a top 5 quarterback 4 or 5 years ago. That's a long time. I don't think he'll ever come back to who he was. And I think the offense thrives better with a quarterback like Joe Flacco, just a gunslinger.
Hey, let's stop here. We got to pay some bills. 30 seconds, and we'll be back. Getting your house ready to sell, or you just need some basic repairs, and you can't get anybody to come out or even return your phone call. Then call Riley Painting and Contracting, your home mechanics, for all of your home repair needs, from electrical, plumbing, roof repairs, and getting your house ready to sell. 45 years in the business, a AAA on the Better Business Bureau, and we're on the preferred contractor list in Cleveland Heights and Shaker Heights. You can contact us by calling 216-371-8160 and leave a message, and guess what? We'll call you back.
Well, they brought Dorsey in. They're stuck with Watson. They can't trade him. He's got to approve the trade. I think they're going to try. They're going to try.
No one will trade for him. But I don't know. Every season with the Browns, my gut feeling with them has always been spot on. When they hired Freddie, when they brought in Odell, everyone was hyped up, and I was like, I got a bad feeling about this. Last year, I don't think Watson is ever going to come back to who he was.
Well, he's still a relatively young guy. I mean, he hasn't crossed that 30-year-old line. And again, I think they brought Dorsey in to get the most out of Watson, and it's gonna be full speed ahead Watson next year. I mean, he looked real good against the Ravens. I mean, it's typical Browns. Once he felt better with the shoulder, and we later found out that was more than anybody thought. But still, I mean, he gutted it out. He played great against the Ravens. We beat the Ravens, and just poured it on in the second half. I mean, just look at Lamar Jackson. I mean, another bust in the postseason.
He's not a bust.
I mean, well, okay. Well, let's save that for another podcast when they start looking.
He doesn't have success in the playoffs, but he's a top 5 quarterback in this league.
Exactly. Well, what's really brought things home when you think about who's in the Super Bowl, one of the big factors is you got to be lucky with injuries. I mean, the Browns were just decimated on offensive line. They lost Nick Chubb. Can you imagine if we had that O-line with Nick Chubb and Flacco? Oh my God. I mean, that would,
well, it's almost like I know Bill Simmons says this a lot. It's the Patrick Ewing effect, where you take away your best player and you actually improve.
Yeah.
So hey, I love Chubb. He's another guy. He might get cut, but they got a lot of big decisions in
Yeah.
the next year.
Yeah.
But
Well,
hey, it's nice to not be the laughing stock. We're a good team, not the best team, but we're moving in the right direction.
exactly. And we got a lot of don't underestimate all the young players we have. I mean, JOK had a great game against the Texans. Emerson, we got a fairly young secondary. Big question mark on Denzel. I would not be surprised if they orchestrated a trade with him. That guy is very fragile. I mean, he's missing half the season, it seems. I mean, he was subpar in the Texans game. I think he missed like 7 games. He's had a couple of concussions. I mean, great player when he's on the field, but doesn't seem to be on the field. So, but you're right. A lot of changes coming up. But I think the Browns, it was amazing how they got to the playoffs playing 4 quarterbacks. It's a testament to Schwartz. Great job he did. Bill Callahan getting the most out of all these, players coming in. The guy who played left tackle. I think Hudson got exposed at right tackle in that Texans game. I mean, he was a virtual revolving door. So, but again, we've got we got Conklin coming back, and we've got that. The rookie from Ohio State, right tackle.
Oh yeah.
So, and he was a beast. So, kudos to Andrew Berry and Stefanski, but Andrew Berry just seems to be a savant when it comes to drafting. So, and especially picking up linemen and then sending them to the Bill Callahan school. So, anyways, any more final recaps on the Browns?
No, I was pleasantly surprised when Chubb went down, Watson went down, to see where they ended up. I wish the Texans game was a different story, but it's always a good season when you can watch, your team play in the playoffs, even if it's for a game. But how about my last thought is the AFC North is by far the hardest division in football. And I wish we were in the AFC South with the Jaguars and the Titans. And I mean, it's like Pittsburgh made the playoffs, Ravens made the playoffs. Cincinnati was still competitive, even though Joe Burrow went down. So it's a tough division.
Yeah, I agree. I got one final thought, and that'll be teeing up for our next podcast, which will be next week. As we preview the Super Bowl, is following who gets hired as coaches. And I'm going to be keeping a special eye on Bill Belichick because I think teams would be crazy to hire him as a head coach because he's going to want to have full control. He's going to want to be the GM. And this guy stinks as a GM in terms of drafting. And it reminds me, people forget his time in Cleveland, he had atrocious drafts. And he does not know how to develop quarterbacks. That's loud and clear. Mac Jones is a train wreck. So we're going to talk about all the coaches out there, the good, bad, and ugly. Hopefully we'll have some word on Bill Callahan, whether he's going to stick around. So that's in our upcoming podcast. What would you like to talk about, Brooke?
Our next podcast?
Yeah.
Well, I know we touched on it in our meeting today. In terms of the Small Business Confidential, is you don't know until you meet payroll.
All right. Well, that's coming up on our other podcast, Small Business Confidential. But for now, Cleveland Browns, they did okay given all the injuries. So we'll pick it up next week for our Super Bowl preview. All right, Brooke?
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Cleveland Browns Anonymous podcast with Mike Riley. We have a lot more content on the way as we get this new podcast started. You can also check out some of our other podcasts like the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast and other new ones that will start soon. On any platform that you find yourself listening to us on, feel free to leave us a like or comment or follow us. It always helps.